put this together for a really long time. I think initially it was scheduled for January, got postponed due to some weather. So I'm really grateful to be here with you this evening. And I like the intro, because that's countless conversations with student athletes who just graduated. So every May, June, July, August, like clockwork, I'm going to have somebody, and I promise you, I will prepare you for that. Whether you know it or not, right now, during your experience as a student athlete, you are acquiring real-life transferable skills that will translate into corporate success. Your student athlete experience is your internship. And if you can convey that properly to a hiring manager, you can demonstrate not only is it on par with a traditional internship, it may even supersede it. You're acquiring a set of skills that we're going to talk about and we're going to go over. If any of you have started the job search process and started to look at jobs and you really read just job descriptions, many of these skills are going to be listed on a lot of entry-level type of job postings. And you possess all of these skills, which employers are looking for. You possess them in abundance. And I don't think any of them are more paramount than your work ethic. Your work ethic is the biggest separator. I've had conversations with hiring managers, with CEOs, who talk about this generation of employers coming into the workforce, and they're just not ready to work, all right? The commitment, the dedication, and the discipline that you exhibit on a day in and day out basis is what's going to separate you from your peers, all right? You're going to show up ready to work, and employers are going to know when they see student athlete on a resume that they're getting somebody that's going to show up ready to work, right? The best ability is availability. And you're going to provide employers with availability and reliability, right? 5 o'clock, you have a meeting like this. You show up. 5 a.m. lifts. You show up. Practice. You show up. Whatever it is, you're just used to showing up, all right? And that's something that's going to provide a lot of value and a lot of separation for you as you enter the job market. Another one is time management. That's right up there, probably 1A, all right? It's 6 o'clock on a Friday night, and you're here right now. Most of your peers have already started their weekend, and you're here, right? And your day probably started before most of theirs as well, all right? You right now essentially have 2 full-time jobs. You have your commitment to your team, as well as your commitment to your academics, all right? And in addition to that, you have to balance your family life, your social life, all of those different kinds of things. That's a full plate. So for you to be able to learn how to compartmentalize and prioritize those things is going to be extremely valuable as you transition into the corporate world. Particularly in entry-level roles where things aren't going to come easy and you're going to have training, projects thrown at you, all of these different things coming your way at once. Somebody who's not accustomed to prioritizing is going to get overwhelmed and may not perform to the level that you're going to be able to perform at because it's something that you're used to doing on a consistent basis. Teamwork, of all the ones up there, is probably the one that sounds least like a corporate term, right? Like, how's being a good teammate going to help you? It may be the most valuable. I can assure you, in almost no job that any of you get, is anyone just going to stick you in a corner and tell you to go, like, look at spreadsheets and work by yourself all day. You're going to have to work well with others, on a team, and even cross-departmentally, all right? When I was in a leadership position, one of the worst phrases that I heard somebody say is, "That's not my job," right? Like, in your environment, there's no such thing as "that's not my job." Right? If we're not working collectively together to achieve a goal, that goal's not going to get achieved, right? Somebody's letting a phone ring because it's not their turn to answer it. Or I give out a 15-page document and everybody gets a couple pages. If somebody gets done first, you have to be the good teammate and step in there and help out so that we can all complete the task together, right? That's something that is extremely valuable to a company culture. They love to talk about company culture. And as somebody who over the last 4 years has not only kind of bought in to a company culture, but you've also helped to build and grow and cultivate that company culture or that team culture. That also comes with like a leadership component to that as well. You're going to hold those around you accountable. Additionally, as part of being a good teammate, you're going to be coachable, right? We talked about entry-level roles, and in entry-level positions, things aren't going to always come easy to you, right? So you're going to have to be open to criticism. You're going to have to be open to coaching. All of those things are what employers are going to be looking for when they're bringing on new employees. The last two probably kind of run together a little bit when we talk about motivation and resiliency. But when we talk motivation, I would imagine that most of you, probably as early as like 7th grade, started setting goals for yourself, right? Started to look something like, I want to play sports in high school. Maybe as a freshman, I want to play varsity. I want to start as a sophomore. I want to be all Catholic, all Central League. I want to get a scholarship, right? And then you get a scholarship, and then you get here. That didn't change, right? It's a new set of goals. Again, I want to play as a freshman. I want to start as a freshman. I want to lead the team in shooting percentage, RBIs, ERA, whatever it is. You're constantly setting goals for yourself. That doesn't end just because this chapter ends. It's just a new set of goals. Right? I want to be the first in my hiring class to get promoted. I want to be a supervisor in 6 months. I want to lead the team in earnings. Whatever it is, it's just a new set of goals. Companies want to hire people that they know are going to want to be there long term. Right? It's extremely expensive for companies to have to replace you. They have to post a new job. That costs money. They have to hire a staffing agency. That costs money. They have to retrain somebody. That all costs money. So when they know that they're getting somebody who wants to be there long term, that's a value add for that company. So somebody who's goal oriented is going to display that, and that's somebody that they want to bring into their organization. And then lastly is the resiliency piece. A lot of entry-level roles come with an extreme amount of turnover. In fact, it's one of the reasons I started this business. I was in a position to bring in referrals from a friend of mine who was a basketball coach in your conference, actually. As his players would graduate, he would ask me if I could get his players jobs. I did that maybe 7 or 8 times. This was a position that came with like a 50-60% turnover rate, meaning within 6 months to a year, half of the people that came into this role were gone. The 7 or 8 people that I brought in far exceeded those retention rates. All right? So employers know that when they're bringing in student athletes, they're going to get somebody that's going to want to be there long term. Start within your major, right? Find a couple of companies that you want to work for that industry, for whatever reason that you identify, whether it's because it's in your major, you heard that they pay well, they have good company culture, you have friends that work there, whatever the case may be. Start identifying some companies, and then start researching those companies on LinkedIn. We're going to get into LinkedIn a little bit more later on, but who, just quick show of hands, who's on LinkedIn? Here, anybody? Oh, good, that's a really good number. Good job, guys. We'll get into that a little bit more later. But that's the first thing you want to do is start researching companies on LinkedIn. Then go to your professors, all right? Everyone here should have a relationship with at least 3 to 5 professors. They are going to be an extreme value to you, all right? Most of your professors are adjunct professors, meaning they work, right, part-time or full-time, and they are here part-time, however you want to work. But they have relationships, they have a network that you're going to be able to tap into. So you need to start capitalizing on those relationships. You need to start building those relationships. Your professors want to help you. People in general want to help you, but they're not going to be able to do so unless they know how. So start building out those relationships like now. If you haven't already done so,
that needs to be like priority number one the rest of this semester, is start building out those relationships. I mean, if you're a senior, you have no choice. I know this is juniors and seniors. So if you're a junior, you have a little bit of time, but you need to get on that like ASAP. Start building out those relationships. All right. So now we're going to start talking about how do we land the interview. This is what I was talking about LinkedIn. I know you probably don't get to do this a lot in presentations, so this is going to be a little break for you. Everybody get out your phone. Talking about building out your network. This is how you're going to do it. Step one, you're going to connect with me on LinkedIn. Step two, the professors that I start talking about, that you want to build relationships, start connecting with them on LinkedIn. Connect with Wilmington University on LinkedIn, and connect with any alumni associations that are associated with your university. All right? Alumni is key, especially for student athletes. To some degree, you guys are the face of the university, right? And people who have come before you see themselves in you. They're going to want to help you, especially if they went to Wilmington and they played the same sport that you did. Or even if they went somewhere else and they played a sport or a similar sport, you're the kind of people that people want to help. So getting active on LinkedIn and starting to make those connections is how you build your network. Something along the lines of 90 to 95% of positions are filled through internal referrals. All right? So you're not going to be able to just simply apply for jobs on LinkedIn or ZipRecruiter or things like that and think that you're just magically going to get a job. It takes work. All right? So the other thing that you can do, and not can do, should be doing, has anybody started applying for jobs yet? All right, I'm going to pick on you real quick. What platform are you using when you apply for jobs?
A little different, going to trades.
Okay.
So I applied through Warwick Community College out in Salisbury to the apprenticeship for lineman.
Okay. Did you think about Pico at all?
What was that?
Did you think about Pico at all as a lineman?
No, I'm just getting my CEO, go to lineman school and hope to get hired by Baltimore Gas and Electric.
Do you have anyone in your network that's helping you with that?
I do, my neighbor.
Okay, good. Perfect. We're going to talk about neighbors in a second, too. Someone in their back here had their hand up. No? He's the only one that's applied for jobs? All right, you are. What platform are you using to apply for jobs? LinkedIn. All right. So you notice about, what would you say, 50, 60% of the time when you apply for a job, it shows you who posted the job? Have you ever messaged that person? Once or twice. How many jobs have you applied for? A lot. And you only did it once or twice. So you're leaving opportunities on the table. I'm not pointing you out. You're just brave enough to raise your hand. If I post a job on a Sunday, and it's a good job, when I come into work on Monday morning, let's say I have 100 applicants, all right? Maybe 4 or 5 people will do that, all right? So by the 2 or 3 times that you did that, when you send a message, and it's just short and brief, hey, this is James, I applied for your account executive position, I've read the job description, I think it really aligns with my career goals and my skill sets. I'd love the opportunity to discuss this position with you further. That quick little email is going to separate you from 95% of the people that apply for that job. Right? Put yourself in my shoes, put yourself in the recruiter's shoes. If you have 100 resumes to go through, are you going to go through 100 resumes first? Or are you going to look at the 4 or 5 that emailed you? Right? You're going to take a look at theirs first, right? Another thing, when you look at resumes, like I said, I got 100 of them to look at. Recruiters fly through that. So now, not only are you separating yourself, but you're also giving yourself an opportunity to have your resume looked at a little bit more thoroughly, giving yourself a little bit more of a chance to stand out. All right? So when you apply for jobs, particularly on LinkedIn, about half the time, you're going to have who posted it. It's going to tell you who that is. Message them. All right? The other half, depending on the size of the company, you may be able to do a little bit of research on LinkedIn. It'll tell you what employees work there. You can look at and try and find somebody in that department who may have posted the job if it's a smaller company, or somebody in HR, and email them. Now that's not a guarantee, but if it gets to the right desk, it's going to show a tremendous amount of ambition, that you took that time to take that next level dive and send that message. Now you're really going to get their attention. So when you're applying for jobs, these are things that you need to be doing to separate yourself, okay? Now
We were talking to your family circles, your social circles, all of those different kinds of things. And then you're on online networking, LinkedIn, things like that. So let's talk about the in-person networking is first. I know a lot of you guys, when you're in situations where you're speaking, with adults, you're having conversations that are comfortable for you, right? Like, you guys, is the baseball table over here, right? People are usually asking you, how's baseball going? How's the season going? That kind of stuff. And they're the people that you're talking to, right? You're having those conversations that are comfortable. Have a conversation that's going to challenge you a little bit. Talk to adults that maybe don't talk about baseball, right? Ask them what they do for a living. People like to talk about themselves, right? So when I meet somebody new for the first time, one of the first questions I always ask somebody is what you do for a living, right? You never know what that person does and how they can help you, all right? You could be an accounting major and their husband could be the controller at Breaker Simpson, right? That's an opportunity for you, all right? You could be looking to get in marketing, and they could be working for, DMI marketing out in the city, and that could be an opportunity for you. Again, people want to help you, but they can't do so unless you're having the conversations. So when you're having conversations with adults, be intentional with your conversations. Let people know what your major is and what you want to do. All right? So that's for your in-person networking. We're going to talk about social media and the importance of LinkedIn and networking there. But before we do that, I just want to take a break about how you can use social media as a tool. But we also want to talk about how social media can be weaponized against you if you're not using it properly. This is important. I'm sure most of you know that while you were being recruited, coaches were looking at your social media, right? I'm sure your high school coaches were telling you that. Keep your social media clean, coaches are looking at it. That doesn't stop. You're not in your head. I'm going to pick on you for a little bit. That doesn't stop right now, all right? Employers are doing that as well, all right? 95% of employers have admitted to looking at candidates' social media at some point throughout the interview process. When I say 95%, you might as well call it 100, right? So you have to go into it with the assumption that every job you're applying to, somebody's going to be checking out your social media. So your social media needs to be pristine. It needs to be an accurate portrayal of the image that you want to display. All right? And if you don't believe me, I'll give you an example. You can just go Google, coach loses job over social media post. Athlete loses scholarship over social media post. Stuff happens all the time. I'll give you one that was really close to home. I'm from Philadelphia. The Philadelphia Catholic League baseball team, like 2-3 years ago, team won the championship, right? Coach was there for a really long time. He decided to retire. The alumni started a job search. They hired a kid. I call him a kid. He's not a kid. He's probably 25, 26 years old. An alumni of the school. Philadelphia Catholic League is a pretty good league for most sports. So this was, for someone that age, a dream job, okay? The problem for this hire was some of the alumni didn't like this hire. So they did a little bit of digging on his social media. They found some controversial tweets that he had sent 5 or 6 years ago, if not longer. This dude was hired for his dream job on Wednesday. By Friday, he was fired. Okay? Because of some old social media posts. Everyone in this room works too damn hard to lose an opportunity over something so foolish. So please don't let that be you. Okay? So now that we talked about kind of how social media can be used as a weapon, let's talk about how it can be used as a resource. So, there's a good number of people that are here that are on LinkedIn. I was very impressed by that. How many of you are actually active on here? All right, so that's only like two. 2 hands went up, and probably 25 went up earlier. You have to be active on there. It's not good enough just to be on there. Here's why. Well, first and foremost, the more active you are, the easier it is to grow out your network, get more connections, see who's posting things that are similar to your interest in your major, in your field where you're looking to get into. That's how you start to build out your network. Another thing is, as a recruiter, if I'm looking for, I'll give you an example. I just picked up a job today. Next week, I'm going to start recruiting for a senior staff auditor, okay? When I'm doing that, I can go on what's called LinkedIn Recruiter, which is basically like, it'll show me your profile, but you won't know I'm looking at it. Well, that's another thing too, real quick, when you're on LinkedIn. If you click on somebody's profile, they know you clicked on it. Somebody knows, oh, yeah. So it's a good thing, and I got your attention. That's a good thing if like you have an interview tomorrow and you're looking at somebody at that company's profile. I want to see that. That shows that you're interested in the position. If you're using it for other reasons, I just wanted to give you a heads up. They're going to know that you did that. All right? But as a recruiter, if I'm on your profile, it's kind of like in the shadow LinkedIn. So you won't know that I'm on your profile. I can message you, hey, I have this position, I read your profile, looks like you're a good fit. Here's the job posting, let me know if you're interested. That's a message that I can send when I'm recruiting for jobs. All right? But I might only get 150 of those that I'm allowed to send a month. And then I have to get like a premium subscription. If I look at anybody's profile except for these two that raised their hands, and you're not on LinkedIn, you haven't liked, commented, or posted in 8 months, a year, 2 years, 3 years, I'm not going to waste one of my 150 messages on you, because chances are you're not going to see it. So by not being active on there, you just cost yourself an opportunity. So you don't have to do a whole lot. You don't even have to post if you don't want. But like, comment, things like that, I'll see that you're doing that, and I'll know that you're active, then I'll probably shoot you a message. The advancement of AI. The first thing you want to do when we're talking about resumes is it needs to be in a specific format. Certain formats, when especially larger companies, when they run them through their database and it does like an AI scan of it, if it's not in the right format, it's not going to pick up some or all of the information on there. So you may be disqualifying yourself from a position just because your resume isn't in the right format. All right? So I prefer just kind of the standard, like kind of paragraph looking resume. Your name, information up top, school, major, grad year up top. It's an entry-level role. What they want to know is where you went to school and what your major is. That should be up top, not down the bottom. Don't make them go looking for it. All right? The other thing is, when we start to talk about what's on the resume, when we get to our relevant work history, which is next after the education, you want to quantify your accomplishments. All right? There's 2 reasons why you want to quantify your accomplishments. The first is, like I said earlier, when I'm scanning through your resume, numbers on the page is going to grab their attention, and it's going to get them to stop and look at it a little bit more closely. The second thing it's going to do is it's going to show your direct impact on that organization. All right? So you want to try and find ways to quantify your accomplishments when you're writing your resume. Okay. Now let's start talking about how we prepare. Oh, one more thing on resumes. Please, 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 when you save your resume, save it first name, dot last name, dot first name, something along those lines. Not resume 2025. It's your own resume 2025. I have hundreds of them.
bigger companies have thousands of them. And now, once again, you're making it harder for yourself to be found. You need to stand out. First name, not last name, nice and easy. If they need to go find you later, it's so much easier to find you by your name than it is by resume 2025. All right? Now we're starting to get into the interview process. You have to research companies prior to the interview process. All right? Has anyone here ever heard of J.G. Wentworth? What's the first thing that comes to mind? Thank you. Yes. 817. So that's who I worked for them for 25 years. Okay? And I did thousands and thousands of interviews for them. And I would be sitting in an interview. I'm going to pick up you right now because you sung the last. I would be sitting there interviewing a candidate, and I would ask them, so tell me what we do. Tell me a little bit about what you know what we do. And they would literally like sing that song to me. Or tell me, it's my money, and use it how you want it, or whatever they used to say, right? And like we can laugh about it in here, and it's funny in here, but if you just sung me my phone number when I ask you what we do, we're about 30 seconds into the interview, and I've already eliminated you from contention. I know I'm not going to offer you the job because you did zero research. You have zero idea what we do. You're not taking the process seriously. Now, on the other side of that is if I ask you what we do, and you say, oh, you buy structured settlement annuities, and you give the customer the present value of their future cash. That's a really impressive answer. It really got my attention. It probably took 15 minutes tops of research. Now you're a minute into the interview, and I'm heavily leaning towards giving you an offer, right? So see the difference there? No research. I want to end the interview, you're not getting an offer. A little bit of research, I'm leaning towards wanting to give you an offer. So researching the companies goes a long way. Same thing with when I said researching who's going to be interviewing you. Look at their profile. See where they went to school. Maybe they were a student athlete. Maybe you have something there in common. Maybe they went to the same school as one of your parents. Something like that. But the more research you do on the company and who's interviewing you, the more common ground you can find. And anytime you can find common ground in an interview, you're now have the ability to make that interview much more conversational, which is going to make you much more relaxed. You're going to perform better, and you're going to come across to that interviewer as a stronger candidate. Again, like I said at the very beginning, preparation breeds confidence. And you have to have questions prepared. One of the worst things an interviewer wants to hear is, at the end of the interview, do you have any questions for me? No, I think you answered everything. You have to have questions ready for the interview. I'll even give you two that I really like, all right? First one is, ask somebody what they like most about working here, or what they find most rewarding about working here. Same thing, and basically. And what that's going to do is, it's going to tell you, because again, you did your research. You're going to know if they're authentic in that answer, if they actually really do enjoy working there, or if they're just reading something to you, off the company website, like the company mantra or code or whatever you want to call it. You're going to pick up on that, and you're going to start to get like the vibe, like, yo, this dude doesn't even like working here. Why would I want to work here, right? So you're interviewing these companies as much as they're interviewing you. So that's a really good question. So you can kind of start to gauge a little bit about how they feel about their work. And then the other question is a really good thing is what would be the goals that you would set for me over the learning curve in this role that's called the first 3 to 6 months, and then out the remainder of the first year. All right. What that does is that shows, one, that you're not afraid to have goals placed upon you, right? You're actually welcoming them. Like, what are you going to expect from me? I'm up for the task. And then the other thing that does is, in order for them to answer that question, they have to put you in that role out 1 year. All right? So if it comes down to you and another candidate, and that could be a little psychological advantage. because they already had to put you in the role to answer that question. So, again, little things can be the difference. So that's a good one to possibly separate yourself from another candidate. Like I just gave you a couple of questions that are good questions for you to ask. I can't predict what they're going to ask you. I can give you a little bit of an idea. One of the first questions that you're going to be asked is, tell me a little bit about yourself. It's a common icebreaker question. Here's a really good answer to that. A lot of people, when it sounds like a simple question, but when many people, especially in an interview setting, when they get asked a question like that, they try to cover too much, and they end up not covering anything, and they kind of ramble and it can even be a little coherent, and they start to lose the interviewer. How you can really control that and engage that interviewer is ask them, what do you want to know about me? Do you want to know about me as a student athlete? Do you want to know about me personally? Or do you want to know about my professional goals? Now that gives them 3 different choices to get back to you to answer, right? So one, you're keeping them engaged in the conversation, which is good. Again, I said when they're engaged, that makes you a stronger candidate. The other thing is, you now can control your answer a lot more because you're honing in on one thing, and your answer is going to be a lot more precise, a lot more clear, right? So that's an excellent way to answer that first icebreaker question. All right. Another question that's going to be a common question you're going to ask: what are your strengths and your weaknesses? All right. They're not really interested in the answer to a question like that. It's more so what they want to know is how you articulate it. Right? By the time you're in this far along in the process, they have a pretty good idea of your strength, what your strengths are. That's why you're in the room, right? So they want to know how you articulate it. As far as the weaknesses, it's not like I got you question, right? They just, again, they want to know how you're going to articulate it. And most likely what they want to know is, how self-aware are you, right? Were you able to take a weakness, identify it, and possibly turn it into a strength? Right? I'll give you a strong way to answer something like that. So I said at the very beginning, most of you are probably really good at time management. Me, myself, that was a weakness of mine when I worked in a corporate environment. When I started my own business, I quickly learned, you need to improve your time management skills. So now, my day starts before my day ends. So before I end my day yesterday, I look at what my day today is. I have a call at 7:30. I have a meeting at school at 1 o'clock. I have to be here at 6 o'clock. Right? I have a call at 3 o'clock. And then I fill in the gaps where I don't have specific things on my calendar. I give myself tasks. I'm going to email 10 schools during this time. I'm going to email candidates in this time. I'm going to email companies looking to hire in this time. So now my whole day's accounted for, right? So that's how I took time management as a weakness and possibly even turned it into a strength. That's what employers are looking for when they're asking those type of questions. Again, it's not an I got you type of question. They just want to know how you're able to articulate that, all right? Talk about your resume. If something's on your resume, you better be prepared to speak to it, because they're going to ask you that. I've seen candidates say that they were proficient in Excel, and then apply for an accounting job that gave them an Excel proficiency test as part of the interview process, and they weren't able to perform basic tasks. And not only did they not get the job, but they embarrassed themselves in the process. So if you're going to put something on your resume, you should be able to speak to it. That doesn't mean that your resume needs to be one size fits all. You can tailor your resume to specific jobs that you're applying for. It's important to read the job description, and certain jobs in your past, there may be certain functions of it that are more applicable than others depending on the job that you're applying for. So you can plug things in and take things out depending on the position that you're applying for, but you shouldn't just flat out make stuff up. I can, like I said, I can't predict fully. On my website, there's a couple questions on this slide. On my website, I have a PDF version of this presentation that has like 3 full pages dedicated to common interview questions. So that's a really good resource for you guys as you're starting to interview for internships or full-time jobs. If you want to go back and reference that later on ahead of an interview, feel free to do so. Also, like I said at the beginning of this, I love my job. This is what I enjoy doing. If anyone in this room ever has an interview and you want to reach out and do like a little interview prep, I'm here for it. Reach out. You'll get all my contact information at the end. So I told you that I can't predict what they're going to ask you. This was almost an automatic. In almost every interview, again, particularly on the entry-level roles, at the end of the interview, one of the questions that's almost guaranteed to be asked is, why should we hire you? What separates you from other candidates? Something along those lines. Right? We talked all night about separating yourselves. Right? That's what you've done your whole life as a student athlete, is separate yourself. So this question is put on a tee for you to knock it out of the park and really nail this interview. So if somebody asks you what separates you or why we should pick you from another candidate, you just simply tell them, my whole life I've separated myself. And these last 4 years as a student athlete have been the most intense internship that you can possibly have. I've mastered my time management. I've increased my already strong work ethic. I've overcome adversity. I've failed. I've learned what it takes to win. But most importantly, these aren't just skills that were learned in a classroom or jotted on a resume. These were skills that were applied in real life situations that I'm ready to bring to your organization and make an immediate impact. Right? That's going to be one of the last answers that you give them, and that's a pretty compelling answer as to why they should pick you over somebody else. All right. We're almost done the interview process, and we're almost done here too as well, so hang tight. I told you earlier how important it is to send a message when you apply for a job. The messages that you send following the interview are just as important. When you go on an interview, as soon as you get home, send a thank you email. Hey, thank you for your time. I really enjoyed learning about your company. I hope to hear from you soon about next steps. Something that's short and brief, make sure you get it out there. If there was something really particular that you talked about in the interview, that maybe you told them, oh yeah, I saw that in your company in an article I read last week or something like that. Maybe copy a link to the article and send them that if they were in the news recently or something like that. You know, that's like a little extra brownie points. But definitely send the bare minimum, thanking them for their time. All right? They will usually give you a time frame. We should hear back in 3 to 5 days, 5 to 7 days, 7 to 10 days. Whatever that time frame is, when you get to the back end of it. If they say 3 to 5 days, on the 5th day, if you haven't heard from them, shoot them a quick message. Hey, this is James. I was hoping to hear something by now. Just want to let you know I'm still really interested. Let me know when you have an update. Thanks for your time. Again, short and brief, but let them know that you're there. It could be a test. They might want to know how ambitious you are. All right? Here's the last one. This next one sucks. All right? We all know, like, nobody's going to bat 1,000. Right? Nobody's going to make every shot that they take. You're not going to win every game. So I don't think you are anyway. And you're not going to get an offer on every interview that you go to. Okay? That's just not how things work. We know that. When you get a rejection, hey, sorry, we decided to go in another direction. We'll keep your interview, or we'll keep your resume on file. Hope to hear from you soon. Something like that you'll get. It hurts. It stings. Maybe you thought you did really well in the interview, and this was the one for you. Take some time, decompress, but at some point within 24 hours of getting that email, send them a thank you anyway. Hey, I understand. I still enjoy learning about your company, and maybe down the line, In time, things are a little bit different. Our paths will cross again when it's a little bit more mutually beneficial. Something along those lines. That shows a tremendous amount of maturity and professionalism for anybody, but particularly somebody of your age. If you can send that email, that may open doors for you in rooms that you don't even know your name's being mentioned. I've seen it happen. You know, the person that they go with didn't work out, right? We talked about it. There's a high retention in a lot of entry-level roles. Who do you think is going to be the first person they call back? Right? The person that sent that message. I've had one where a colleague saw a job that I had posted maybe 3 weeks ago, called me and said, "Hey James, I saw you were just hiring for an auditor. I'm hiring for a similar position. Do you have any candidates that didn't work out for whatever reason?" Yeah, here's Sean. He sent me a really nice email through the process. I think he'd be a good fit for your role. All right? That goes a really, really long way. Up until this point in your lives, athletics have been a large part of what you are and who you are, but it doesn't define you. It's giving you the tools to go be great. A lot of people are afraid to be great. Don't be one of them. Go be great. I did talk about the importance of LinkedIn because that's probably the most important as far as networking and I post a lot of my jobs on there as well. So if anybody wants to connect with me on any of those other platforms, there's a tree link barcode and you can connect with me on any of these other platforms if you like. Does anybody have any questions? You're talking about like when I was saying send like a note or something like that. It can be more difficult in larger organizations. Are you on LinkedIn? So you can sort, like if you bring up a company, let's say Johnson & Johnson is a global company, right? If you bring up Johnson & Johnson, you can then go to their employer section, see what employers are on LinkedIn that work at Johnson & Johnson, and you can narrow that down to who lives locally, and then maybe you can also look at that to see who has, if you have any connections that work there, or if you have any second connections that work there. Here's a good example of that, and this is another thing that you could do on LinkedIn. So let's say you apply for a job at Johnson & Johnson, right? And you see that I have a second connection that works there. And I applied for Johnson & Johnson. I see you're connected with James Grugan that works there. Right? Do you know him? Maybe I do. Some of my connections I know really well. We may have worked together for a long time. If I'm in a position to email somebody or message somebody for you, I would do that. But that's not just me. Like that's anybody in your network. It could be an aunt, an uncle, a professor, a coach, a teammate's dad. You know, there's a lot of people in your network that may know somebody that works there. So if you can start to look at who has, you know, first and second connections that work in an organization that you're applying to, that's one way to try and get around a global organization.
Can you look on LinkedIn to see where they graduated from?
Yep.
So sometimes you might be able to look at a profile of somebody, or you might be able to look at an organization and try to find out how many individuals that work there are Wilmington University alums. And that might be a way that you reach out to say, I'm a fellow WU alum, looking for some guidance, not necessarily in your area, but within that industry or within that company in particular,
piggyback on a couple of things that, that James said. As he mentioned, here at WilmU now, as you know, many of your classes are online. There are very few that are face-to-face. So when you think about a professor and you think, well, I want to build a relationship with a professor, how do I do that? Some of you maybe have never seen that professor face-to-face. But what I would encourage you to do is if you had a class that you liked the content, you think you liked the professor. I know sometimes it's hard to determine that if you didn't see them face-to-face. But if you liked the content, you liked how they delivered it, you liked, maybe some of the projects that professor, listed as required projects, email that professor, introduce yourself, let that professor know that you enjoyed their class, and ask that professor, if you were me, I'm a junior, I'm a senior, I'm interested in this type of work in particular, do you have any suggestions for me? Because what James said is very true about your Wilmington University professors. Majority of them are working adults, and they're working in the industry that they're teaching in. So they're adjuncts for a reason. They're not full-time because they're working full-time at their other jobs, or some of them may have retired, and they spent an entire career and a lifetime working in that particular profession. That is a phenomenal resource for you. And I can tell you, they would love to hear from you. So give yourself, 5 to 10 professors that you had a class with, and don't hesitate because you didn't see them face-to-face. Email them. Thank them for the class. Tell them you enjoyed it. Think about something in particular that you enjoyed. Make it relevant, and see if they get back to you. See what they say. I also want to piggyback on the question of when you're in an interview, how much you should do some research about the organization that you're interviewing with. The first question that we ask at Wilmington University, it doesn't matter if you're interviewing to be a coach or if you're interviewing to be the next vice president of academic affairs. The first question that is asked at a Wilmington University job is, tell us what you know about Wilmington University. And if somebody stumbles on that one, he's absolutely right. If you can't provide us any information about Wilmington University in that question, we're going to probably wrap up that interview pretty quickly. So do your homework on any organization that you are looking to interview with. Make sure you find out a little bit more about them. Certainly identify whether you know some people there, but don't not have an answer for that question. If somebody has referred you, make sure you put that on your application. So if you know somebody that was referring you, put that down, because that stands out, I think, just as much. It's good for them to know that. I think it stands out similar to once you submitted your application that you would then follow up on who you can see posted that position and emailing them. Also letting them know that somebody referred you is not a bad idea either. Be careful of AI. I don't know if you've seen this, but I've seen a lot of interviews where people are using AI to pretty much write their resume. Be very wary of using AI for all of your resumes. Some people are going back and checking to ensure that the grammar is correct. So I don't know if you see that very often these days, but I see more and more where it looks like AI wrote the whole resume. Okay. And I know not all of our coaches host alumni get-togethers. Baseball has an alumni game. Basketball had a wonderful alumni, not just a game, but they also had sort of like a reception one night. If your coach is hosting an alumni event, go. Those alumni, talk to them, ask them some questions, ask the coach to maybe facilitate some type of opportunity for you to get to be a little bit more engaged with the alums that are there. Maybe ask the coach to identify each alumni with a badge that doesn't just say their name, but identifies what industry they work in. And then you can kind of walk around and gives you a chance to learn a little bit more about the alum. They will love talking to you, and especially about something that they also love to do besides the sport that they played here. So I just wanted to piggyback as you were talking. Well, it's not all of our coaches always invite the student athletes. They're getting better at that now. It's taken a while for some of the coaches to be here long enough where they feel like they have built up, enough alumni that are under their reign as a coach. And so I think you'll see that more and more moving forward, just because we've had some good tenure here. Any questions? Anybody? No? You guys are ready to go tackle any upcoming interviews? All right. Well, thank you. We really appreciate your time and your advice. I would absolutely take James up on reaching out if you have any questions moving forward. I think you'll be most prepared for what's to come ahead. So, all right, folks, have a great night. Thanks for coming out. Can we get a picture real quick? Picture.
What would you say resonated most with you from the presentation?
Throughout the presentation, I think what resonated the most with me is the connections aspect. I think a lot of it is not about what you know, but who you know. And this seminar tonight kind of reiterated that for me. That's something that I really want to take a step towards, is expanding my connections, specifically me in the field of social work and mental health.
Did any of the skills that I mentioned as transferable surprise you as a transferable skill?
Honestly, it doesn't really surprise me. I've been taught a lot throughout my athletic career as a student athlete of how important that these values, these core values that I've gained through my sport, can be transferable to the professional field, not just the professional field, but in our social lives and et cetera, in our family lives. So I think that just having those values reiterated is just more reassuring to me, knowing that I have been set up to succeed through my sport and the values taught in my sport.
Great. Last one. What advice would you give to a student athlete who hadn't heard this presentation?
Some advice that I would give to a student athlete who hasn't been through this seminar is just kind of to simplify what all we learned tonight is basically just connections. Make sure you're meeting people and connecting with people who are familiar in your field or have any information that can be valuable to your future. And also to, I just blanked out.
We can edit it.
Okay.
That's fine.
What was I going to say?
That's fine. Your first answers were perfect.
Okay.
And then can I just have your name, sport, and year?
Name, sport, and what?
Like James, sophomore, sophomore.
Oh, okay. My name is Bella Barnes. I am a senior softball player here at Wilmington University.
First, so we'll do that.
Hi, my name is Sean Glatz. I am a baseball player, and I'm a senior at Wilmington University.
What from the presentation resonated most with you?
What resonated most with me was the connection aspect of the more of the connection side. It's really about who you know, and really it's really up to you on how you. I don't know.
As a student athlete, what do you think is the most transferable?
I think time management is the most useful, because just getting everything done, being able to balance everything in between is what I think is the most important aspect.
Is there anything that you learned tonight that you were most likely to implement?
I actually haven't used LinkedIn a lot, so I think LinkedIn will be a very big aspect for me, being able to reach out to other employers and just get to know more about what I want to get into.
Thank you very much.
No problem.
Okay.
Something like that.
Hi, my name is Jess. I'm a senior softball player. My major is business management.
And what from the presentation resonated most with you?
Probably the networking. I'm a pretty good people person. I try to talk to a lot of people when I can about what they do and their jobs. But I haven't gone to a networking event or job fair. So I think it would be a very good thing to do. My major is very broad in the industry that it's in, so being able to narrow down what I want to do might help me out a little bit.
Outside of the network, what are you most likely to implement?
Implement?
But for your job search strategy?
Definitely using LinkedIn more. I made an account for a class, and I saw how it could benefit me in the future when I am looking for a job. So I definitely like using LinkedIn more and liking, commenting, posting if I can, and just researching other companies through LinkedIn.
Is there any advice you can give to a student athlete who hasn't heard this?
I probably would take notes. I personally did not, but I don't remember things very well, but I think it would be a good idea to take notes and try to remember and use it in the future when applying for jobs and interviews and all those things. Okay.
What skill would you say that you acquired as a student athlete is the most transferable?
I would say teamwork. Like you said, it's probably one of the bigger things. It seems simple, but a lot of companies really like the teamwork aspect of things. Grew up playing softball, so I've been on a team for most of my life. And learning how to be a team player is not always the easiest thing, but it came pretty easy for me, and I think that makes me would help me as a candidate moving forward and looking for a job.